Yeah.
Really? Ah, never heard of that. I have not seen that
I'm
kind of
not sure if
chart.
that's
Maybe others
actually
have.
true because I've met a lot of short people who play the double bass and they're
Welcome to Classical Chats. I'm Tiffany. We're back. I'm very excited to be filming in-person episodes for the first time of Classical Chats this season. We're currently here in New York at Rare Violins of New York, so special thanks to them for letting me film here in this cozy place. But before we launch the new episodes, let's have a flashback episode. Due to some technical difficulties, we were not able to publish one of the last in-person episodes of Classical Chats from last year. So here you go. Meet Zoe Willingham. She is a violinist currently in the Jacobs School of Music. She was a grant recipient of our grants, and thanks to your support, she was able to use the grants for part of her tuition. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoy this episode.
And we're live. Hi, Zoe. Welcome to Classical
Hi,
Chats.
Tiffany. How are you?
I'm good. Very happy to meet you face to face, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. We're still virtual, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, but it means a lot because I was one of the people, or I chose you as one of our grantees to get classical grants last
Yes.
season. So very
Yeah,
excited
thank
to
you.
talk to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I see a yoga mat. Is that a yoga mat of some
Oh,
sort?
I do have a yoga mat, but it's down there under my
What
bed.
is that? Oh, no, that is your
This is a mic,
mic.
yeah.
It looked like a yoga mat for some reason.
Yeah, that's my mic.
Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself. No, but I know that you wanted to talk about well-being and mindfulness, so we'll get to that. But let's start in the beginning. How did your journey with classical music begin?
I am a late starter, actually. I started violin in middle school around age 10 or 11. Um, in Georgia,
How did
in Georgia, they have you either choose between orchestra or band. And I was from the start enamored with orchestral instruments. And I did not particularly enjoy the spit of band instruments. I didn't want to have to deal with that. So from then on,
you know that crossed my mind at some point, and also in middle school we had to choose, and I ended up being in chorus just to get out of learning another instrument. But I remember thinking, I think walking past some music class, and they had recorders, and they were all, kids playing on it, and that thought that your very real thought was like,
I did
what
the
what goes on with
same.
the hygiene of this?
Yeah, it was not for me.
But
So I it was between violin and cello for me, but ultimately I chose
oh,
violin. And from then on,
how come?
I think I figured that since I was a smaller person, violin was a lot better for me. And they had this whole chart thing on how your hand shape is, which instrument would be better for you. Like if you had a shorter pinky, then violin would probably be better for you. So yeah,
Really? Ah, never heard of that. I have not seen that
I'm
kind of
not sure if
chart.
that's
Maybe others
actually
have.
true because I've met a lot of short people who play the double bass and they're awesome.
I actually met one recently, and I was very surprised, but she's great. I mean, she's in a pretty good orchestra, and so I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you can play bass
So
too.
I don't think it's entirely
Yeah.
accurate. I think it was just for us kid brains.
Yeah, but it makes me curious, what's the requirement for piano playing? Was there a hand shape for
I have
piano?
no idea. They probably just want you to have super long
Mm.
fingers.
I think it's also like a combination. Either you have a really big palm, I have a tiny palm, so they look like French fries, where it's like long fingers, but like kind of small
Yeah.
here. So I don't know. I'd be curious to see this chart. But anyway, before middle school though, you weren't really exposed to classical music or violin or orchestra playing,
Actually,
or were
no.
you?
In elementary
Hmm.
school, I did choir, and I probably would have stuck with choir if I didn't um, choose orchestra. But I remember doing this competition. It's a vague memory of they gave us some CD of classical songs, and we had to we had to memorize the tunes, and there was a test that we had to do, and you would place based on how many you memorized and got right. So I think that's my very first memory of enjoying classical music ever, even before I started the violin. And I can remember when I was younger, I had these two walkie talkies, and when you put them together, they make like the static sound. So I would
Yeah.
pretend one of them was the violin and the other was the bow, and then I would move them across each other. And it was nothing like a violin, but in my little imagination it was. So
Yeah, you have a very imaginative brain. I mean, I've only talked to you for less than 5 minutes, but yeah, imaginative brain and also a very practical brain about the hygiene. So curious how you went on with that kind of imagination and practicality in mind. Um, how did you then decide to keep on pursuing violin?
from I think from the first moment that I touched a violin, I knew that like I wanted to do it forever. I just remember being so excited. I didn't care about any of my other stuff that I had to do in school.
Oh,
I would just look forward to orchestra every day. And I would go home and I would practice and play stuff that I couldn't even like I wasn't advanced enough to play, but I did it anyways cuz I just liked the piece and I wanted to play it. I would play for like 8 plus hours, which is not it's not good, but I was a beginner and I was so enamored with it that I played and I lost track of time. And yeah,
wow.
so I from the very beginning I knew that I wanted to play it.
I mean, that's amazing. Also, it's kind of I feel like the world is trying to tell me to practice more because you're the third classical chats guest in a row that has told me how you spend 6, 8 hours practicing. Meanwhile, I always film next to this little friend here. Not little, you're bigger than me, but I feel partly guilty, but also inspired in a way. I don't know. Um, wow, 8 hours. But that's when you really are so looking forward to orchestra. I mean, what did you play in orchestra? Did you play classical music or was it like arrangements of pop?
Yeah, it was mostly arrangements by independent composers just across the board who wrote for youth orchestras. Basically, there's like a canon of of youth orchestra music that you usually go through in school. So it was mostly that. We did play a few classical pieces once I got into high school.
Hmm.
Those were
So
more
you kept on
advanced.
going.
Yeah. Yeah, after that I was set. I was in it. Yeah.
So you started taking lessons outside of school or
Actually, I didn't start taking lessons until sophomore year of high school. So
hmm,
about how many years later is that? A good amount of years later. So
6 years,
yeah,
5 years?
something like
When
that.
does middle school start for you? Fourth grade or fifth
No, it
grade?
starts sixth grade actually.
Sixth
Yeah.
grade.
So in
Oh.
Georgia, it's 6, 7, and 8 is middle school, and then 9 through 12
Oh.
is high school.
Interesting. I now know two different schools in New York. It's sometimes I've seen, well, private schools I've seen sixth grade up, and then I've
Uh-huh.
also seen fourth grade up. I was in fifth grade up. They changed some things now,
Yeah, it's
but
different everywhere you go.
that's
Yeah.
cool. What made you decide then in sophomore year to start taking lessons?
Well, I knew that I wanted to pursue it as a career. And actually, I had found out about this program that we have in Georgia affiliated with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra called the Talent Development Program. So that's how I ended up starting lessons and getting professional training for really no cost at all. It was a great
Oh
opportunity.
wow.
Yeah. We trained
Fantastic.
with symphony musicians, and we got to go to concerts and summer festivals and everything. So
Wow.
yeah, I knew.
I'm so happy for you for that.
Yeah, thank
Because I know
you.
how important it is to have that exposure. I mean, I know even just I was a lot older, but still having that exposure is so important to just go to so many concerts and really have that intensive uh, variety of different experiences.
Yeah, it was a
That's
great
great.
opportunity, and from coming from not having any formal training, it was such a great help before college auditions and all of that. So I'm very thankful for
What were
that.
some things you learned in particular? Did anything stood out to you, like any memorable concerts or experiences?
Yeah, I think it has to do with what we're talking about today, the whole mindfulness, injury prevention, and that whole scene. I've I learned a lot of technical things that I had to change, um, and that I'm still working on now, which was a big help. And coming from that, I injured myself, so I was at a summer festival and I was fixing a technique, but I was practicing too much of that new movement too soon instead of easing into it because your body is used to doing it a certain way. And when you suddenly switch it like that and you increase the amount of time that you're on your instrument, it was just like a recipe for disaster. So
Mm.
I ended up injuring myself, and I learned how to, one, pace myself, especially when learning something new, that you have to correct. And when you do get an injury, how to manage it and how to cope mentally through it as well. Because I was in a summer camp where I we were there and paid money to play, and I couldn't play.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of
Mhm.
me being there. So
Yeah.
learning how to change your perspective and find something attainable that you can do. So I can't use my bow, but I can do some left hand exercises in the meantime, or I can sit in rehearsal and listen to the different comments the conductor is giving. I can go to master classes and learn something that I can apply when I'm able to start playing again. So those sort of things are some of the stuff that I learned during that
Yeah, no,
time.
it sounds like it was a very, very difficult period to yeah, I can feel just how you're slowing down to even talk about that memory that it probably took quite a toll on you. But I'm just really curious because I have some new violin friends. Um, so it was a bowing change
Yes. So
in the technique? Ah.
I wish I could show you. But when you play the
So
stick,
was it like a wrist?
yes, it was a wrist injury. So the stick
Mm.
needs to face towards the scroll away from you. When I was playing, the stick was facing towards me, which was a problem with my wrist and the curvature of my fingers. So
Mm.
changing that caused some wrist pain. Yes.
Oh no. How long did it take for you to recover? Did you have to do any physical therapy?
Yeah, it took about, I would say it took about 3 months, 2 or 3 months or so.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I couldn't hold my bow, and I couldn't type on my phone. So it was
Oh
yeah,
wow.
it was pretty bad.
Wow. So during that time, I guess those 3 months you weren't always in the festival?
I
Or
I
were you
was
always in
there.
the
I
festival?
had to be there. I couldn't like just go home unless I really wanted to. I'm sure I would have been able to go
Mm.
home. Um, but no, I stayed and I tried to participate in concerts. I think at that point I had to do some volunteer work, so helping out with the concert setting up and passing out programs and things. So I did some of that, and of course, like I mentioned, going to master classes and things like that. I did get to play in the last concert though. We played the Planets, but I still had to wear my brace, but
Mm.
I at least got to play it.
Okay.
So um,
At least,
yeah.
yeah. And you probably learned, I mean, it's not really a great way to learn, but you did ultimately learn a lot from how to take care of yourself. I think you mentioned that you had 2 injuries.
Yes. Yeah.
Was this the first one or the
That was
second
the
one?
first one. The second one was
You did it again? Oh no.
yes, I
Oh.
did it again. And it was actually this past summer. So it was recent. It was a
Ah.
re-aggravation of the same injury.
The
Yeah.
same. Ah.
Um this time I think it was still technique based, and I'm still working on. It wasn't the same issue though. I think I was just applying too much force, and I was practicing for too long of a stretch without any breaks in between. Um and
Were you practicing 8 hours
no, I
still?
wasn't actually. That's what's strange about it. I was really only doing an hour and a half, maybe 2
Mm.
hours. But the problem was that I wasn't breaking up that hour. So I would go the whole hour and maybe a little bit over, doing like a Brahms excerpt or something for an extended period of time without any breaks in between, or at least switching up the kind of repertoires that I was doing to something more light.
Mhm.
Um yeah, I was just straight through. So I think that contributed to it as well.
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted you to have our grants was because I could tell that you're very enthusiastic and very passionate about the music. That was definitely number one on how I choose recipients. On the flip side of that, you gotta also be careful, and not just because ultimately I think a lot of people forget that music playing is also quite physical of a task, and sometimes you can really injure yourself. So after the second injury, I hope you don't have a third one. Um,
Hopefully.
how long did it? How long did it take for you to recover from this? And were there additional new things that you learned? And is that kind of how you decide to have really a journal to documents and be really, really um, careful and be mindful?
Right. I think it took a little over a month. Um Probably closer to 2 months, I think. I The difference between um the first time and the second time is that I learned the importance of maintaining your when you're in a good state. Like, we know that when you get injured, you're supposed to do all these things to take care of whatever the injury is. But when you're healthy and you're fine, you still have to do things to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And
Yeah, that's really
that's
true.
what I missed from the between the first time and the second time, was the maintenance aspect, so that I wouldn't end up in the situation that I did end up in.
Tell us, what are some tips that you have gathered from your 2 injuries?
Right. I mentioned doing the exercises with, I'm not sure if I said it, but using resistance bands.
No, you did not
Doing
actually.
Okay, yes. I am on the resistance band train forever.
Ah.
Yeah, it's really great because they're portable rather than free weights.
Wait, which ones? Just the bands or like the skinny like
Either or, I have both of them.
Wait,
Both of them are great.
this is interesting. Hold on 1 second. Oh yeah,
Yeah, these
I have them
or
too.
yeah, or the long ones for more upper body stuff. But you can do upper body
Wait,
workouts with these too.
so what kind do you use? So I have a set here that has like different tension or I guess kind of weight.
Yeah. Yeah, they come with different tensions and weights.
Who would have
What brand
thought
is this?
that
This
my
brand is
first time returning to these bands is like 2 years later on Classical Chats. I seriously just gave up because I'm very bad at keeping routines, and so they've just been sitting
same.
in my yeah, they've just been sitting on top of my yoga mat that I have not used in almost 2 years now. So
These are great. I have some videos on my Instagram about how to use these for warming up.
also, if you can show me, what should I use?
So it depends on what you're doing. For wrists, I always use the extra light one or the
Okay.
light
All right, let's do
for warming up.
extra light. So what do you do?
So usually I would do this more
I was not expecting to have a lesson.
more
So please.
to the side. So it's basically doing extension and flexion. So you would pretend this is my foot. You would hold this down with your foot and basically do curl ups, but only with your wrist.
Oh, so like this.
Yes, but you want to have your arm at a 90-degree angle so that you're only moving your wrist.
Wait, can I actually do this? I just move. I'm really curious. All right, so I've got them on my foot. Now what?
Yes. So
Like
it's not like a bicep curl where you're moving your whole forearm.
what am I
It's
using?
more.
Oh,
It's a
but then I
wrist
also have to be like
isolation.
this. Like this.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, right.
Wow, that's hard.
It is, and
I'm like sweating right now.
you can do that.
Wow.
I usually do.
Do you do it standing up or sitting? Standing up.
No, I do it sitting.
Sitting. Ah.
Yeah, I do it sitting, and I rest my forearm on my thigh. So you do it this way. I do it this way. I do it the other way, holding it like this and pulling back. And you can do ulnar deviation, which is this way. So hitting this side of the arm. What else? I think that's it. Yeah.
How long do you do it for a warm up?
For a warm up, I don't try and do it that long. I usually do maybe 10 of each or less. In warm-ups, I don't like to go so much how you would in a workout where you're trying to fatigue.
Yeah.
It's more of just getting blood flow and warming up the muscles, basically.
Mm-hmm. Oh. So this is for warming up. What else do you do then with these bands?
For strengthening, it's the same exercises, just using a stronger weight and doing more sets and reps. So getting to that fatiguing that I talked about before.
How did you learn these exercises?
At my school, we have a performance medicine department, and I learned all the exercises from there. Yeah.
Oh wow! Is this for violinists in terms of like the wrist or string players, or is it also for pianists?
You can, if you use your wrists, you can use them.
Yeah, no. Now I'm actually curious about the biology because you usually are for the bowing. Wait, not this one. This one, I think.
Yeah, the right arm.
No, I'm just trying to compare kind of the physical movement. This will take hours if I keep on exploring this. But that's interesting. So you started implementing it. Have you seen results?
Yeah, when I'm gonna be honest, I haven't done them in a while, but when I was doing them post injury over the summer, it was more of a rehab thing to get strength and mobility back. When I was doing them, you just feel stronger. It's hard to describe because it's such a small like part of your body, but I can tell a difference between when I'm warm and I feel stronger versus when I just start playing or whatever. It's hard to describe unless you actually experience it.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean though. The internal feeling of I've definitely been in situations where I had to play like in class and my hands were freezing, and the entire
Mhm.
time I'm just like a white ghost. I feel like a white ghost because I am just
Yeah.
not existing really in touch with anything. It's just freezing, like trying to survive and just play and hopefully it warms up in the middle, but then of course it warms up 80% into the piece and so I'm
Yeah.
like whatever. So yeah, I definitely know that internal feeling of when you really feel good internally and the blood
Mhm.
circulation is there. All right. Thank you for the lesson.
No problem.
That's great that there's a performance medicine. Is this in college, right?
Yes, I go to the Jacob School of Music.
Yes. And
Yeah.
nice representing school. How's that going?
It's great. I really love it here. I study with Samin Ganatra, who is the first violinist of the Pacifica Quartet. And she's great. I've had such a nice time, and I think my sound has developed studying with her. My technique is a lot better, and yeah, just all around, I feel very happy with my progress here and all the opportunities that they offer here.
That's good. And which year are you in right now? I forget.
I am a junior now.
Junior. Oh, so what's next? Or is that not on your mind yet?
No, it is. Up next is my recital next semester in April, yes. So I've been preparing for that since like this semester, since September or so.
Oh, wow.
I've been working on it, yeah.
What are you playing?
I'm playing the Glazunov Violin Concerto and maybe Bach, maybe a sonata. I'm not sure what this what the second part will be, but I definitely know I'll be playing the concerto.
Well, good luck with your preparations for
Thank
your
you.
recital. Do you have any idea of what you would like to do with classical music or with your violin playing after you graduate?
That's a good question. I know that I want to travel and I know that I want to perform, whether that is by myself or in maybe a small chamber group or quartet, something like that. I'm not sure. All I know is that I don't really want to be in an orchestra. I don't want to go through the whole audition process and stuff like that. And just sitting. I love orchestra. I love playing in orchestra, but I can't see myself doing that for like as a career. I am also very passionate about teaching, so I would like to do that as well in the future. I'm thinking at the collegiate level, but I really do love teaching kids too. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure yet though.
Well, you're still in school, so you have time to think about it while you have the safety of being in the school environment and you don't have to worry about too much of the career stuff yet. So, and you're very, very energetic and passionate about classical music, so I'm sure that you'll find your way. I don't know. I just feel like you're very positive and energizing. Anything else that I haven't talked to you about that you would like to talk about in classical chat?
We talked a little bit about the warming up. I just want to say that I have a free guide actually for warming up and cooling down. It is tailored towards string musicians, but the sports science concepts are pretty much universal about what kinds of warming up there are. So it's not just stretches you can do. There's mobility stuff and static versus non-static stretching, when to do which one, and all of that is.
Wait, that's really intriguing. I'm definitely gonna look this up. Is it like a PDF or a?
Yeah,
website?
I have it on my website and I have it in my bio of Instagram.
Static. This is very random, and I don't know. Maybe this will be chopped up and put back in the middle of the episode. But static versus non-static. That seems like jumbo shrimp, because aren't you moving when you're stretching?
Static versus dynamic. That's what it's called. Dynamic stretches. Back up. Static stretches are stretches that you hold for a longer period of time. So think of like when you do yoga, you'll hold a pose for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. That would be static stretching. Dynamic stretches are where you move through a range of motion. So something like wrist circles, arm circles.
It's like swimming warm up. I remember.
Yeah, swimming warm up.
Like, one arm.
Yeah.
2 arms. Now both arms.
Right. Right.
Awesome. I'm just imagining what you look like backstage before a concert and or audition. Like, are you doing these things before?
Yes, I warm up with my resistance bands, doing all the circles and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I have yet to see a musician do that, and so I can't wait to see this movement. No pun intended, but this trend to start, because yeah. That's really smart. A lot of people ask me, how do you warm up, or do you have a warm up routine? I'm like, no, I just play. But I'm also, to be fair, I'm also like a little bit more mindful than that. Like, I wouldn't necessarily start with something crazy virtuosic if I don't feel like my blood is flowing. Like, that would not be But I'm also not, as the one who have not touched these resistance bands in 2 years, I will shut up about body maintenance and health in that regard. But it's been great learning some things from you. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I'm definitely not that conscious. I get carried away very easily, so I have to intentionally make sure that I am completing every step. Like, do the warm-ups, because if you don't, it'll be a bad time. Start off, I have to remind myself to start off light, to start off slow and intentional, checking my posture and everything. And I have to set timers for, I don't go over 15-minute timers, so that I know I intentionally take a break. I have to physically put it down and then turn off the timer, so that I make sure I take a break in between.
That's really smart, and that's exactly what my parents have told me the many times that I've said, yeah, I was working on my computer and then I forgot to eat, and then it's like 10 p.m. Like, just set an alarm or something. So yes, that's smart. Well, I hope you will continue to really stick to your knowledge of performance, or is it performance medicine? Musical medicine? What is it called?
Performance maintenance? I don't know. I think that's what we go.
But yeah, I really, really hope that you don't have another injury. Knock on wood.
Yes, I am really trying to take a break over the Christmas holiday.
Mm. Okay. Well, enjoy your break if you do take a break. And yeah, thanks for chatting.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yay!